Your job then is not to directly pursue the purpose right away. It's to ask yourself, what conditions do I need to cultivate in my life to make that purpose really blossom, really flourish? And then we can get kind of mad at ourselves because we're not doing our purpose when we didn't take the time to set the conditions. And it can take a few years to set up well, it takes a lifetime, right?
Hi, my name is Zenka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet, and my purpose and passion is removing impossible from the dictionary. I'm here today with one of my heroes, Cassandra Vieten. I have been following her career since she worked at ION's Institute for Noetic Sciences, and now she's the research director at the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination. She is also director of the Center for Mindfulness at UC San Diego. What I love about Cassandra in this video is she really looks at the broadest perspective, the environment that creates the potential for us to achieve evolution through our imagination, through our creativity, and also through looking at things like rites of passage that other cultures have that help us get us closer to that purpose that we're all searching for. Enjoy this interview.
I've felt a very strong drive towards purpose since I was probably 18. But this was maybe 15 years ago when somebody came to an organization that I was at the time president of, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and we did a staff retreat where someone facilitated something I think called the Purpose Method. And it was a 2-day process, and it was working to find the purpose of the organization, but I was secretly also doing my purpose at the same time. And it was an incredible method. It was just wonderful. And that's what came out of that method. And I've had it ever since. I think there is a kind of epidemic of people feeling at a loss for what they're doing here, what their purpose is, at a loss for a sense of meaning in life. And I have a colleague named Lisa Miller at Columbia University, and she says we're suffering from diseases of disenchantment. And she counts depression, anxiety, suicidality, many other things, addictions, as part of these diseases of despair. And so I also think that that despair partly comes from the lack of sort of consensus-based rites of passage, where in many indigenous societies, people were asked to do a pilgrimage or even a 2-year walk, that's kind of in the Basque territory, or a more recent version is in the Mormon tradition. They might be in the Polynesian islands asked to swim to a very distant rock and swim back. And so in these, there were always sort of a little bit of danger, maybe a vision quest where you're not eating or drinking for several days. And the societies were able to tolerate that danger in favor of assuring that people came back with some sense of, oh, this is what I'm here to do. And so many people have had transformative experiences, either because of something amazing and wonderful or because of a deep deconstruction. But these were almost engineered transformative experiences. And I think we need to have more of those in our society, because they at least plant the seed of perspective. What am I really here for? What am I here to do? Well, I do workshops where we engage in methods to help people find, if not a lifetime purpose, at least a right now purpose. What is my assignment right now? I'll say, like, for the next 3 to 6 months. And even for people who feel like they have a larger purpose and they feel pretty clear on it, I'll still do the what is your assignment for the next 3 to 6 months to move you towards that purpose. Because sometimes the big ones don't have the practicality of, okay, exactly how would I unroll that? What kinds of conditions do I need to place in my life to be able to manifest my purpose? And that's one thing that I think we don't pay enough attention to is you might have an aha moment or an insight about what your purpose is. Your job then is not to directly pursue the purpose right away. It's to ask yourself, what conditions do I need to cultivate in my life to make that purpose really blossom, really flourish? And then we can get kind of mad at ourselves because we're not doing our purpose when we didn't take the time to set the conditions. And it can take a few years to set up it takes a lifetime, right? But certainly can take a few years to set up the conditions under which my purpose could be manifest, especially if your purpose is something that is going against society's conditioning or your conditioning. You've got to have tons of things in your life that give nutrients to the new purpose in order to allow it to grow. Some of the conditions that are really important for most people in terms of growing their purpose, it's sort of like a garden. You get a seed planted either by yourself, by your family, by the universe, and then your job is to provide the soil and the nutrients and the sunshine and water and stakes in the ground to allow this seed to grow. Same thing in your own life. And so many people will say that what they need is a supportive community of like-minded folks, but not too like-minded, so that they're also willing to challenge you and keep you on track. They need time in nature. They need spiritual connection and often a daily mind-body practice that helps them stay in a certain level of kind of spiritual fitness and resilience, because if your purpose is big enough, it's going to be scary and it's going to cause trouble. And so you've got to have a certain level of agility and flexibility and nimbleness to get through all of the obstacles that might be put in your path. On that note, one of the things that this person who led this purpose method that I went through said is, if your purpose doesn't scare you a little bit, it's not your purpose. So you definitely want to have a little bit of like, oh gosh, I don't even know if I could do that. And then you're on the right track. I have absolutely encountered struggles on my way towards manifesting my purpose. And even in the midst of being at a very high level of feeling like, on the outside anyway, people would have said, wow, she is really living her purpose. I definitely had a period of time where I got lost and felt, really out of control and not happy, not useful, and turned to addictions and had to actually go through treatment during that time and come back on track. And some people are surprised when they hear that, like, oh my gosh, first of all, how did that happen? And second of all, why are you telling anyone? And I say it out loud because so many people who are really peaking at their purpose have a secret life where they're really not peaking. And it just means that some of the conditions that one must have in place to stay balanced and flexible while you're living a purpose were lacking, they were missing, or they wore away over time. So sometimes we can work so hard that we just forget about taking care of ourselves, or, we have so many plates spinning that, it's kind of got to come out sideways somewhere. And so it reminded me, even in the midst of this beautiful career moment, that number one, anyone can get lost. And number two, you've got to spend extra energy to keep all of your support structures in place, or you can very easily get lost. And you see this in leaders, in gurus, people who are trying to do really wonderful things, creatives. You'll see them get completely off track and, kind of possessed by something that is working against the very purpose that they're trying to promote in the world. Well, I've been very lucky to be able to have the opportunity to manifest my purpose in so many ways through work at the Institute of Noetic Sciences and my work at UC San Diego, where I'm now directing the Center for Mindfulness, and I work on the science of imagination and the science of psychedelics. And, if I had told my 19-year-old self, who was just beginning to get glimpses of what my purpose is, that that's where I would end up, she might have said, yeah, I know, because she was cocky back then, right? But she probably also would have been blown away. And so that's been great. And then when other people see someone who is able to manifest purpose in a certain way. And of course, some of that comes from privilege, and some of it comes from dedication, some of it comes from karma, who knows where, luck. The best approach when you're in that position is gratitude and humility. But it's great to be able to talk to people and say, that wild dream you have, you can do it. There is a way to make that happen. And who would have thought that I could be at a mainstream university studying and teaching meditation, imagination, and psychedelics? I think if everyone were living into their purpose, if they were aligned with what I call their big assignment from the universe or from God or from whatever we want to call it, things could be radically different than they are now. When I hear my friends talk about it's too late for climate change or it's too late for other kinds of difficulties on the planet, I think that that's just a profound lack of imagination. Even if we had 10% more people living in alignment with their highest purpose, and then even better working together, which is what's so wonderful about this program that you're doing, then I think we could really make some miraculous and radical shifts in human suffering and interconnectedness around the planet. One important thing, I think that purpose doesn't come from a mental process. I think it bubbles up from within, or it's something that comes through you. So the great inventor Thomas Edison said, "I've never invented anything. I'm just a needle on a phonograph." And what he meant was, it's just coming through me. And so when we are living into our purpose, there are, of course, times when it's hard work, or it's hard to be out ahead of the pack and you feel lonely, or it's hard to fail and make mistakes and, humiliate yourself by trying something that completely doesn't work. Those are hard. But when you are allowing it to come through you rather than from you, it's less effort. It's, in fact, becomes a lot of flow and a sort of effortlessness. So you can be tired the same way you're tired after working out in a really healthy way, but you don't have that drained feeling. So allowing your purpose to work through you means that your job is not actually to invent or follow your purpose. Your job is to simply become as transparent as you possibly can, which means stay clear with what you eat, with what you put into your body, with other people in your life, with your values. And the clearer I get and the more aligned, so if I'm a little bit off alignment, then it's going to be really hard for something to get through. But if I'm in alignment, it's going to flow. The other thing I would say about purpose is that in the territory of purpose, there are no rules about time and space and scale. So people can live into their purpose when they're 85. People can find their purpose when they're young. People can go back and reorient things that they've done or even failures they've had into what their purpose will be. There is no sense of scale with purpose. And so while one person may have a download that my purpose is to start a multinational NGO that feeds and clothes millions of people, or I'm here to stop wars from happening. I'm here to cure a disease that's hurting millions of people. Another person's purpose might be, I'm here to replace the tiles that have worn away from my child's school and bring more color through my tile painting into their school. Another person's might be, I'm going to work behind a counter, and every person who comes to buy something, I'm going to give them a blessing in return. It can be that I'm to pray every morning, and that's part of my purpose. So the scale is not relevant in purpose territory. It's really about finding what it is, aligning with it, and then allowing it to be dynamic, because you may not have the same purpose at age 30 that you do at 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. You may have a through line, but allowing it to be flexible and dynamic and really paying attention to it and cultivating it rather than thinking it's just going to appear one day. I love studying imagination, and it's because the inner world is almost infinite. The external world is probably also infinite, but we only are able to encounter a very, very small piece of the external world. Inside of our inner world, we have a range of unlimited possibilities, some of which are realistic, they could happen in the real world, and some of which are unrealistic. But that exploration into things that are impossible often brings back wisdom that we can't find in the possible. So there's a great quote that some truths can only be found in fiction. So I'm really enjoying mapping that vast inner territory of imagination. Some of it is just for fun and re-enchantment, but a lot of it is we know that we've got to go into the realms of the impossible to bring back solutions that seem impossible now, but will be what solves problems in the future.
Are you looking to begin your life of passion and purpose? We are waiting for you with our groups of 8 to 12. These loving teams are formed to look over our success data to find the fastest and funnest and most direct way for you to find your purpose and calling in life. To find out more, go to holomovement.net/purpose.